Alright, hey guys, I'll be analysing today Peter Dutton's media strategy during the 2025 recent Australian federal election, with a focus on the use of political spin. This will show the dangers of an over reliance on image management, misdirection, and narrative framing without any substance in this really important age of digital transparency. So we'll switch to slide 1. Let's begin by understanding the core concept, political spin. What is political spin? It refers to the selective presentation of facts and the use of rhetoric and narrative framing to sway public opinion. It communicates techniques that seek to manipulate rather than inform, turning controversies into talking points and weaknesses into strengths. Peter Dutton's leadership of the Liberal Party leading up to the 2025 election was an exercise in hard-line messaging. From the moment he became the opposition leader in 2022 after Scott Morrison, he attempted to rebrand himself from this quote-unquote hard man on the right into a serious alternative to Anthony Albanese. But spin without substance will ultimately fail. In the 2025 campaign, it was shaped by this media environment increasingly skeptic of surface-level slogans and a voting public deeply affected by the cost of living pressures, housing security, and climate concerns. Yet Dutton's campaign relied extremely heavily on negative framing and tried to deflect attention from unpopular policies and past failures. Does that sound familiar? Now we'll switch to slide 2. The slogan for the Liberal campaign was "Let's get Australia back on track." The slogan echoed familiar populist tones. This was intended to project strength, certainty, and a return to this sensible governance. However, critics and analysts alike noted this odd similarity to Trumpian rhetoric. Make America great again? As reported by 7 News, the slogan was described as a calculated move to reframe economic anxiety into a call for conservative restoration. But beneath this show, the campaign suffered from quite a lot of internal disarray and a failure to resonate beyond the core conservative base. Dutton's use of political spin was evident in his portrayal of Labour's climate policies as reckless. He described it in the 2022 government net zero pathway as quote-unquote economically destructive, despite widespread business and scientific support. This frame exemplifies political spin, distorting a broadly supported initiative such as renewable energy and fighting against climate change to create some sort of moral panic. The campaign also employed this classic sort of wedge politics, using this media spin to exploit cultural divisions, particularly the recent Indigenous Voice to Parliament referendum. Instead of showing a forward-looking position, Dutton's messaging focused on sowing doubt and division, which some outlets described as fear-mongering, according to The Guardian. Dutton's campaign often sought to divert attention from pressing issues, housing inflation, by resurrecting the old fight of immigration and national security. Now we'll switch to slide 3. His media presence was dominant in traditional formats. There were press conferences, morning talk shows, and legacy news, but Dutton failed to effectively pivot to the digital-first platforms with a majority of under 40 voters now consume news. While his team engaged the New Zealand firm Tofam Guren to engineer digital messaging, the Australian had revealed that the campaign's social media performance was really quite underwhelming. And that's where I will put you to the first 2 graphs at the top, evidently. In the final 6 weeks, the coalition posted 647 times across Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, yet failed to cut through. You can see this comparison right below with both their TikTok pages and the engagement. Albanese's team posted fewer times but generated significantly more engagement, indicating that volume could not replicate relevance. This is really important. The failing to engage younger voters and diverse audiences on these platforms actually shows us this great misunderstanding of contemporary media ecosystems. Political spin that once worked in this top-down sort of media environment doesn't really work in this horizontal participatory space where messaging has to be agile, authentic, and evidence-based. The spin continued in Dutton's approach to economic messaging, sadly. He claimed that Labour had, quote-unquote, lost control of the economy, a message repeated in every single media appearance, but refused to outline detailed Liberal policies to address the cost of living crisis. Instead, the coalition relied on the fear of Labour rather than any kind of positive agenda. This tactic increasingly rang quite hollow. In terms of audience, the Liberal strategy overestimated the resonance of these traditional conservative values and underestimated shifting public sentiment. Voters in key suburban and outer metropolitan seats, as you can see from the swing, responded poorly to Dutton's perceived harshness, especially after years of pandemic-related stress. The strategy lacked appeal to women, younger voters, and multicultural Australians. To put it quite frankly, Spin failed to align with reality. And now we switch to slide 4. The broader implications. Okay, the results were quite decisive for this election. Not only did the coalition lose the election, but Dutton himself lost his seat to Dixon to Ali France. This is an extraordinary political fail since 1992. As ABC News noted, no amount of spin could salvage a campaign that seemed out of touch and, quite frankly, backwards looking. The broader implication of these failed strategies are quite significant. Firstly, it signals that political spin as a dominant electoral tool is no longer sufficient in media landscapes driven by transparency and accountability. Voters demand policy depth, authenticity. Campaigns that rely solely on image and narrative control risk being really exposed. Secondly, it reflects a critical shift in media power. Media goes from traditional gatekeepers to this participatory public sphere. Furthermore, Dutton's failure illustrates the democratic cost of spin-based campaigning. By prioritizing distraction over deliberation, his campaign weakened the public sphere and diminished the quality of policy debate. Media framing should contribute to informed citizenship. Instead, it became a theater of deflection. The fall of Peter Dutton in 2025 will likely be studied as a cautionary tale, a campaign obsessed with the fear of nuance and unable to adapt to changing communication norms. Spin, once a powerful tool, became a great trap for the Liberal Party.